Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my dear friend, Alina Vlaic. How are you today, Alina?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you. And I'm so honored and happy to be here and to see you again.
Thank you. And the same is true for me as well. Alina and I know each other through kind of the Amazon world, and she's coming on the show today to talk about her company. She's the founder and CEO of AZ Rank. And this is really an Amazon centered business that helps Amazon sellers. But besides that, Alina is a wife, a mother. She has launched several businesses, is running businesses concurrently and doing that alongside her husband. And so I wanted Alina to come on the show and share how she has managed to do all of this, juggle all of this, and do it so well. So again, thank you, Alina. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you too. Yes, me too.
Awesome. So I told everybody what it is that you do, but I want you to share your story with us because it is a phenomenal story. And so please tell us how initially you launched AZ Rank, but what led up to that and your entrepreneurial experience that you've had in your life.
Oh, now you really put some pressure on me. But I don't usually think my journey is so extraordinary because, when you listen to podcasts and see all that, all these famous people on, all over social media and stuff, I always feel like, damn, I'm like a tiny little piece of the universe compared to all of them. But actually, if you come to think of it, I oftentimes more recently try to educate myself into thinking, no, you're not that little. You're important. All of us are, especially in our lives and in our families. I could say about myself that I'm an entrepreneur. I think I've been one. I've been working my whole life. I told you a little bit about this. My working life, let's say, started when I was a kid, and I loved to help my parents. I am currently living in Romania, and I was born here. Romania is an ex-communist country. We got out of communism in 1989, and things were completely different until then. I'm not going to go too much into that, but people can find this information about how communism was in the Eastern European countries. It was not fun, let's say. Freedom was not a thing. We couldn't travel. And the thing that mostly marked my childhood, because I'm born in 1982, so I was 7 years old, just started school when this happened. I don't remember too much, but what I do remember is that we had money, but we didn't have anything to buy. If you compare that to what happens nowadays, it's a completely different story. Long story short, my mom and dad were both engineers, both working in factories at that time. But my father has always wanted to have his own business and to work for himself. That was his lifetime dream. And he managed to do it with several businesses of his own during his adulthood. But back then, in 1991, he opened the first business we ever had. It was a grocery store. It was a grocery store who sold 3 products. And it wasn't small. It was like 100 square meters. I don't know that in feet, but it's big. But since there were no products available, not even suppliers to get from, he could get orange soda, mineral water, and coffee. And for me, it was incredible, Will people come and buy these things? And yes, they did. The line was across the block. And those were my first days of working into a business, let's say, because I was there helping them however I could. And then just, starting helping them with some basic, counting, like putting data into the computer and stuff like that, what I could do at those ages. But I worked there all my vacations and all my weekends as long as I could. In high school, they started a printing house and I could do more stuff, but not necessarily in the office or, I don't know, in the management position, or how could you say. I liked to also go work with the workers in the printing house. And, everything was done manual. We didn't have automated machines to do books and papers. So everything was done by hand. And I used to wake up at 5 in the morning and go to work like a regular person and just do the same work with the people working there. For me, it was an extraordinary life experience, because I can now look at my kids and talk to my kids. And they are 7 and 12, by the way. They were born and they're living in a completely different era, different years, and everything is different. But telling them those stories, I have a feeling that I'm getting to them because it's different than everything they know. It's like a story, but I'm hoping that when they grow up, they remember that, you can basically what I'm trying to teach them is that you don't have to be ashamed to work and afraid at the same time. It doesn't matter what job you have. You can be a janitor, you can be a CEO, as long as you do your work with everything that the way you should do it, respect and everything, honesty. That's the way you should do it. Skipping forward, after college, I got a job because I didn't want to actually go back to my parents. I wanted to, do it on my own. And I got a job, and that's how I met my husband. But we were in very far away, 500 kilometers away. I was the buyer, he was the seller. She was trying to sell me stuff, the companies, not personally. But that's how we met. And then a few years after, through an opportunity that came here in the city we currently live, I moved here. And then we continued our relationship and eventually got married. But when I moved here, he's also an entrepreneur. So he started his first business while he was still in college. And we still have it right now. It's a distribution company that we basically sell toys. We import several brands of toys and children items and then give them forward to retailers or online websites, or we sell them online on our own. That's one business that we currently have. And in the meantime, after we moved here, as I told you, there was an opportunity, but that opportunity was a job. So I worked at the same time with helping him with our business. I actually had a job for 10 and a half years here in our town. I was a sales manager for a stationery company and toys, so they were related. But that's the point when we first met this phenomenon called Amazon. When Amazon entered our lives and we started selling, that was 2017. And that happened actually when I was pregnant with my second child, my daughter. Not pregnant because I worked until my last day. But after I was home with her, I decided not to go back to my job and quit. And then I said, okay, give me something to do. Let's do something on top of our company because that's what we had right then. And then we started learning Amazon, selling on Amazon, doing our own private label brand on Amazon, which is for people who aren't familiar with that, is just launching your brand, building it from scratch, and then selling it on Amazon and other channels too, but mostly Amazon. And only then, late 2018, I started AZ Rank as an agency because I confronted myself from the other side of the business as a client for other agencies. I confronted myself with some issues that not necessarily I didn't like, but I thought I could do better. And I thought I could help sellers more, sellers like me, because this is important to mention, our first private label brand, which was a baby brand, because, new mother, new baby. I know everything about babies. Let's launch a baby brand. But it was a failure, big time. But if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here right now. And I'm going to say that loud and clear all my life, because it was my biggest lesson and my biggest opportunity, both of us, my husband and I, because that's how we started the agency and that's how we learned. That's how we basically learned Amazon. And this is something that I would like to share as an advice, something that worked for me. A lot of people just stumble when they have issues and problems and, failures and say, oh my God, life sucks. It's not good. What am I going to do? I did it too in the beginning, but then being forced to continue because we had put a lot of money or savings into that brand. So we needed to continue and to figure something out. I discovered that the best way of learning about everything is through a failure. That's when you're most focused. That's when you're paying most attention to everybody and to everything that's happening around you. Because when you're on high horses, you're not paying attention to all the details, and things might just fly around you without taking too much advantage of important things. Yeah, we failed that one, build the agency, which is still here. We're doing well, and we launched a couple of more services that go hand in hand with what we do. So we're trying to grow that one. And we're also currently selling, not the baby brand, other two brands right now on Amazon, on Walmart. So each of these marketplaces, and I'm sure you're in the business too, you know a little bit about what e-commerce is. Each marketplace, it's like its own business because it's new platform, new rules, new everything. It's a constant juggle between them. So yeah, I think that brings us up to 2024.
Alina, thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. And I think for so many of us, myself included, and I'm sure many of the listeners really not having any idea of what it was like, because most of my listeners are in North America. And, we have had an entirely different experience here. And so thank you for sharing that with us and what just a tiny piece of what it was like for you in Romania prior to, coming out of communism. And I love that you shared your parents' story as well, and how it was your father's lifelong dream to, launch his own company, and he was able to do that. And I love stories like that, and how you worked with them in even whatever capacity you could do. And so I think that's very true of anyone who has run their own business or been involved in a family business where you just bring everyone along and everyone pitches in whatever way. I know for, Rob and I, when we started our business and our children were young, it's like they could empty trash cans or sweep floors or whatever. And that's what they did. And it does teach them valuable life skills and lessons. And it's such a great experience. And, if you ask them, they probably would say, I don't know about how much I like sweeping floors, but yeah, it did teach me some stuff. So thank you for sharing that. And I love what you said about failure and how it's such a teacher for us if we choose to look at it that way. Instead of I failed, it's terrible, I'm never doing that again, and just giving up, using it as an opportunity to see, like, where could I do something different? What can I do now? And, kind of digging it back up and running with it. And so thank you for sharing that, because I
It's
think it's
not
so
easy.
true.
Yes, it's not easy. When you're in those moments, you don't necessarily think about figuring it out, but you mostly think about how to get rid of it and, get to a better place. But eventually life happens, and sometimes you find yourself stuck and you have to figure it out. And I don't wish this to anybody. It happens. It happens. If anyone of your listeners finds themselves in a place like that, just try to remember that you can figure it out. Start learning. Your mind will go off thinking only about that, because that's what you're thinking, right? I failed this. I lost a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to start learning again and thinking, and your mind will start, the wheels will start spinning again, and ideas will come and things will happen. As long as you don't like, oh, again, what am I? I wake up in the morning and, oh my God, another day. Yeah, it's not easy. I know it's not easy. Some people will say, oh, look at her now. She made it and she gives us advice. I am very much aware it's not easy, but it's doable. I'm the living proof.
Yeah. And like you said, if it wasn't for going through that, you wouldn't be where you are today. Great point there is that those experiences and the things that you learn and develop because of it, it has launched you into this whole other realm of success. And if you're willing to put the work in to figure those things out, it can launch you into a whole nother area. So you shared with us about how AZ Rank came to be, and that's, seeing these experiences that you were having and going, I know I can do this better. I'm sure I can figure out a better way to do this. And then helping other people with that experience that you learned. And I love that. And then the tools that you have incorporated to, again, continue to help your business grow, but sharing those with others to help them, continue to succeed. It's awesome. Yeah.
It actually is. I'm really proud of it.
You
And
should be.
how the way how it evolved and how I started it, basically from scratch, absolutely nothing. I remember my daughter was like a few months old, and she loves her sleep. She still does, but she used to love her sleep as a baby as long as somebody was moving the stroller. And since I had to be in front of the computer to learn to watch courses on or take notes or stuff, because at that point we were in the learning process for Amazon, I used to bring the stroller into the house and then just move it around. And I had my phone in the other hand, and you know, keep doing stuff. Or I was in front of the laptop watching and stuff while putting her to sleep. I always like to multitask, even now. I feel like I know some people say it's not like very productive, but if I don't multitask, not me. I'm looking at the laptop. I'm preparing some food at the same time, thinking of something. It's just how I function best, I think.
That brings up a question for me, and that's how you do it all. Because honestly, I don't even know how you do it all. You do have two children, you are running multiple businesses, you have your husband, a house, a periodic pet. You share this cat that lives with you some of the time and, yeah, wanders off to its owner. But what I'm getting at is that you are doing so many things. And if you want to share with us how you manage to incorporate all of those things and juggle all of those things, I would love to hear, and I'm sure the listeners would as well, some tips that you have.
So first of all, my biggest challenge with the agency when I started it was the time difference. We have 7 hours to New York and 10 hours to California. And most of our clients and people working for us, most of them are in the US. So I had to work on USA time zone. At the same time, I have to work and had to in Romania time for kids and everything that happens here. And at the same time, I have to work with Asia for my brands, suppliers, China, shipments, blah, 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 all that. So at the beginning, it was 2.5 years, maybe three, 16 to 18 hours days. And at one point I said, I'm going to crack if I don't stop. So I'm waking up in the morning, preparing the kids, depending kindergarten, whatever, or just, just starting the day when she was a baby. And then trying to do my schedule for the day, but it didn't necessarily work out because I didn't plan it too well at then. Now I know. Then at that point I thought, okay, I'm going to do this and that and this and that. But skipping a few years after that period of time, which I think even if I would have organized myself a little bit better, and I'm going to share with you how I do it now, even so, I would still have very long days because everything was in the process of growing, building everything up. So that cannot be done in 8 hours. I don't still, even now, I don't work 8 hours. I don't know, maybe combined or as an average, probably my work day is like 12 hours a day. But sometimes I work during the weekends, depending on my schedule, how I organize myself. And I said, okay, I need sleep. First of all, I was so sleep deprived. After my daughter was just like growing up and started to sleep a whole night. And then instead of enjoying that, I was staying up working. I said, oh my God, are you stupid? But that's the way it was, right? So now what do? I just organize my day. For me, it's time zones. So in the morning, I'm with Asia. In the middle of the day, I'm with kids because they come home during lunch and, maybe some activity that we have that they do. And then around the afternoon, it's morning in the US. So US starts. And that's the trickier part of the day because it's afternoon. They need some time. We need to spend some time with them. They need us. And there's dinner. And I like to cook dinner with them. My son loves to cook. and we do this together, and talk. I needed that back into my life. Um, that period of day was like recharging for me. So what do I do now? I just try to put everything down. What do I have to do for this week? Like doctor's appointments and things that cannot be missed. And then I say I need to go to bed at midnight. I try not to pass midnight, even if I stay up a little bit late. But I will do that only for reading or listening to podcasts or something. That's just my me time. And at the same time, I said I need some me time during the day. I need to breathe. I need to go shopping. I need to do whatever. Just find a way to put that in. Otherwise, we're women and we're human beings. We need things that relax us. I mean, I'm not going to the spa in the middle of the day on Wednesday, but I might get my hair done or my nails done if I feel like it, right? And that brings me to a much better state than if I would spend that time working. So basically, long story short, is communicate with everyone around you. That's what helped us a lot. Set up my limits and negotiate them. I negotiated them with myself. I was my biggest enemy. And I said, it's going to be first, it was 1 o'clock. Now it's midnight. I'm planning to go to 11 by the end of the year. That's the plan long term. I'm not going to be able to do that in a month. And those limits help me organize myself better during the day. And at the same time, the hardest thing of all this is to learn to say, no, I cannot do that today. I'm sorry. I want to, but I cannot. Even with you, remember our first invite? It would have been Friday evening. We usually do something with the kids or with the friends. And this is the first time I'm telling you, so you're hearing me lie now. But that's the reason I asked you if you could possibly do a different day, because from 5 p.m. on Friday, it's off for family. So this kind of things help. And what helped me most was finding out that it's actually possible, because I'm never going to be able to do that. Oh my God, what happens if I don't answer this 25 to 37 emails today? It's things like that. Guess what? They're not going to die, and their Amazon business is not going to crash by morning. So that's pretty much it. And multitasking. Maybe not everybody does that, but for me, it's fun. I love it.
Alina, those are great tips. The idea of setting boundaries, we hear so much about how important this is in all areas of our lives, really. And the point that you just made about the emails, and it's really, these are not life or death. And as much as we want to, be really helpful and efficient and get them answered right away so they're out of our inbox, we just can't. We've got to say, you know what, this can wait. These other things are more important. I need to handle this. And so I think that's a great tip for anyone. And then again, your point about setting your hard stop for bedtime, right? You've got to get enough sleep.
How do we do that?
Yeah. Otherwise, you just can't function and you're not going to be helpful to anybody. So I think that's another great one, is saying, this is it for me. I'm done at this point, and then I can have some me time and whatever that may be. And I had a guest on. She shares about how it becomes a time that she does some artistic things because she's a
Mhm.
singer, and she does maybe song lyrics that she's writing, or she's practicing a little bit of time before bed. And, whatever it is, if it's journaling for you, or if it's reading or listening to a podcast, you've got to have that time for you. And so another great tip, setting those boundaries. I love it. And so I want to have you talk a little bit about, because you did share like Friday night is family and friends. So let's talk about how you're, incorporating your relationship with your husband, and you work together, which is can be challenging, especially if you're both very A types, hard-headed, maybe stubborn, the right way, or whatever the case may be. How do you take that side of it and then still have a relationship that's intimate and fun and, your friends?
I think we are lucky because we're not both hard headed. I'm probably a little bit more than him. He's like very calm. You know him. He's always calm, except when the waiter doesn't give him a drink or something. Just kidding. Yeah, we've been friends. So our relationship started as becoming best friends. And even now we've been together. We're almost at 20 years mark in a year and a half, almost two. So we have some history. And back then, and even now, he's telling me something that I am thinking about telling him right now. So I don't know, there's something telepathic communication. He's texting me things that I am texting him at the same time. Literally. I'm not kidding. It's not like always like that, but there are situations where it's like that. We think alike. And I very honestly say that I wouldn't imagine doing this alone. I mean, in the beginning, I was a little bit more alone. He was there the whole time, but I just did more things on my own in the beginning. But I always knew he was there in the back. And we still would talk to each other and discuss things, whatever, good or bad. So I'm not saying it's not challenging. At some point, peop people in all relationships, doesn't matter how happy, you need some break. You cannot just live, work, sleep, have fun with your friends, everything together. At sometimes you need breaks. And that's happening with us. And this is something that I strongly advise everyone to do. He goes out with his friends, I go out with my friends, or just sometimes we're even in the same house. He talks with the boys, I talk with the girls. We're with the same reunion, right? Just as simple as that. Because sometimes all our friends are like, we're all together. It doesn't really matter. I don't have to go out with different people. It's the same people. It's just like different circumstances. Communication, we talk about everything, literally everything. The stupidest things ever. Sometimes we just, on Friday night, if we're not seeing people, we just grab a bottle of wine and he plays music. He used to be a DJ. Prior to his business, he used to DJ and the radio. He loves music and he just plays some music on the TV and we just drink wine and talk about life, business, this or that, or kids or whatever. Just, and this sometimes ends up at 4 in the morning. And just the second day, I was like, shit, why didn't we go to bed earlier? It's just because we love doing that. Even if we're like together all day. I work from home. He goes to the office at the company most of the times, most of the days, but still we're pretty much together the whole day. Even if we went in our worst moments, like if we had like disagreements or something like that, it just talk it through somehow. I don't know, fight, yell, whatever, get it out of your system and move over. And I know it sometimes can be hard because some people are very, like you said, like hard-headed, but I'm sure there are more appropriate words for this when they cannot admit, for example, sometimes you just have to say, it's my fault. Just forget it. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's move over. Let's figure it out. And then doesn't matter. I don't hold grudges about who did what and what happened as long as it's solved. I think that's something very important as well. And I don't know, I always see the good things in people, the good side of people, and I'm always optimistic, too optimistic, I think. I like to listen to Tony Robbins, and he says, I listened to an event he had recently, only day one. I have 2 more days to go. But he was saying something that he doesn't believe in the thing called positive thinking. He said that doesn't exist. You cannot positive think about something that you don't know what's going to happen. It's not a real. You have to make it positive. His theories and how he tries to, empower people and stuff like that. With that, I disagree. I'm sorry. But in that point, I completely, that's why I have it here. It, it stayed there when I listened to him because I do like to positive think. And for me, it's helpful. For example, if, I don't know, I'm waiting for a decision or I don't know, I'm waiting for a client to confirm or for Amazon to approve something, one of my products or whatever. I just like to think that it's going to happen rather than think it's not going to happen, because for me, it's something that is, the vibe, the energy. Sometimes it goes completely the opposite way around. So it's not going to happen. But at least I didn't stress myself in the meantime, thinking about how bad it's going to be. I thought how good it's going to be. And yes, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to, this is it. Some people say you're falling from a taller horse where when you're thinking positive and maybe be disappointed, but I don't know. It's just, this is me. And this is what happens a lot in our relationship, because he's a little bit the other way around. He not necessarily pessimistic, but probably more realistic most of the times. And I'm always correcting him and saying, oh, let's be positive. Let's see what happens. No, it's not going to happen. I know, but let's think it's going to happen, stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, I love
I don't know
that.
how to. We never had, it's been 20 years, and I don't think we've ever had like huge fights. I know, I told you, we were lucky, we are lucky, and we're really good together. I think that helps too. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What you said about communication, we all know how important that is to be able to talk with our partner instead of holding grudges, or instead of just running through your mind these things about what they didn't do or what they said that hurt you or upset you or whatever. And it's like getting those things out, discussing those things makes a world of difference. And, it can be difficult. There's no question. It can be difficult having honest conversations where you think like maybe they're going to react in such a way or it's going to hurt their feelings or whatever. But it's better to get those things out and aired, and you can work through them and then move forward. And I think that's such a huge point and a suggestion that I think we all can agree is totally important. And what you said about the positive thinking and, okay, I'm going to just go out and talk about this idea of projecting those positive thoughts. And there's a whole school on what your mind thinks about, it brings about. And so
Mhm.
when you're thinking positively about an outcome, it's going to happen. And of course, there's going to be people who will say, I don't believe that. That's not true. But I think it's true. Anyway, it sounds like you do too. Do your own research. For the listeners, look into the whole school of kind of quantum mechanics and quantum theory and all of this, because that's fascinating and I highly recommend. But not to get too far off topic, let's talk now about during this journey, entrepreneurial journey that you've been on, how you've had highs, you've had lows. What do you think has really been what's carried you through those times? Is it just something innate in who you are and your beliefs, or do you feel like there's been something else that has helped you through those different times?
In the bad times, I think my positive thinking helped a lot. Actually, to be very honest, I'm a person that doesn't make a tragedy.
Mm.
I mean, even if I get really mad or angry of a situation, or I don't know, something's wrong and I need to fix it, and I don't know, I'm pissed off 3 days or so, but I'm not making like a life or death issue, or my whole world is going to crash and I'm going to be dead by the end of the week and things like that. I never go that deep when it's low, but I try to, think of again how lucky I am to be here. I have a wonderful family. I have two amazing kids. I have a business, which I don't know, maybe one day I won't have it, right? Things can happen anytime to any one of us. We're in Romania here, we have borders to Ukraine. It's been a war there for 2 years. Israel is across the sea. We're in a very conflictual zone right now. And we actually had a few conversations, my husband and I, saying, what are we going to do? It's real. It's not movies. It's real life. We might be able to, I don't know, leave everything here and go away. Life can change in so many different ways. We're not able to predict, but even that, I don't know, I just think about everything that I have, about how lucky I am that I am able to do that, to move. I have enough money to be able to travel and take my kids to a safe place and family. And that's pretty much it. That's all I think about. I trust myself that I'm able to start from scratch. I'm not ashamed of work. I could do any type of work any day. If this doesn't work, tomorrow I'm going to get a job at a grocery store selling mineral water and coffee. I'm totally fine with that. I think there's nothing really more than that into how I am. I'm a strong believer everything is here. Our real problems, our imaginary problems, our imaginary health issues, sometimes everything is here. If you're controlling like 10% of what's in here, we're good.
That's an excellent point. For those who are listening and not watching on YouTube, you're pointing to your head, saying
Yeah.
everything is in your head. And that is 100%. I agree with that. What you're thinking, what you're believing, it's impacting your health, your life, everything that you're seeing in your life. And, thank you also for pointing out the situation that you're in, where you're located, and the real danger that's can happen at really any moment, and hopefully not. I pray daily for that, but we're very far removed from it here in the States, and we're aware of it, and we know that it's happening, and we see it in the news, but it's not our daily reality, those concerns. And so thank you for pointing that out again and bringing that awareness to us. But you're right. It's really what you think about. Again, it makes all the difference in what is happening in your life. So thank you for sharing that. It's so very true. Alina, I would talk to you for hours, and I would do that again right now if we had that much time, but you are incredibly busy, and we just barely scratched the surface of the things that we could talk about, because your experience as a female CEO, founder of multiple companies, a mom raising two amazing children, and you talked about your son briefly about how he loves to cook, and you've shared about the incredible things that he is cooking at, such a young age, and that's just so fun. But again, you're busy. So I want to have you share with us now, as I always love to ask my guests, what books you're reading or have read that you have found to be influential for you or beneficial for you that you would like to share with the listeners.
Okay, so I have three. It was hard to make a selection, but I did it. Okay. So first one, it's called The Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani. He's a founder of a very interesting community. It's all about mindset and how to change your life, but it doesn't have to do with that. It's just a book that he wrote. I strongly recommend it, just even if you're not necessarily in a business. Okay, and then since we've spoken about kids, it's a book that I'm currently going through. I have it on audio, but you can find it also on Kindle and paperback. It's called Hold On to Your Kids. Gabor and somebody else, Hold On to Your Kids. Absolutely fantastic. Every parent of a child of every age should read that. It's fantastic. I won't say more. And last but not least, Something for the Soul. I have read this last weekend. I couldn't go to sleep until I finish it. That's how much I loved it. It's called Three Apples Falling from the Sky. It's Nareen Abgarian. It's just a book for your soul. Such a beautiful story, and I loved it so much that next day I went online and tried to find what else has she written. And now I'm reading her second book, which was award winning. It's called Simon. Just plain like that, Simon. I'm going through as I'm reading it right now. It's an Armenian female author. Amazing. You should definitely try it.
We'll include all of the information that you just shared in the show notes, because those are some excellent recommendations for sure. And is there podcasts you mentioned that you enjoy listening to? Would you like to share those with us now?
As I said, Tony Robbins, whenever I have time and mood, because, Tony Robbins, you have to be in a certain state to get him. And besides all the business and Amazon things that I'm not going to mention right now. But I have something, it's called Smart Agency Masterclass by Jason Swank. It's a different type of podcast, and it's especially dedicated to agency owners of any type, whatever you do, and like not necessarily agency, but service. If you're a, I don't know, broker, you're selling houses, you're having a catering firm, everything there applies. And I strongly recommend his YouTube channel as well. You'll find some very interesting things out there, things that we all know, but we're not aware. That kind of feeling I get from listening to him.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sure for sharing that. And I'll include that as well. I'm curious now, you've piqued my interest. I want to go check that out.
You
And
should.
the books as well. Excellent stuff. And so before we close out, Alina, I would love for you to share with the listeners how they might be able to find you and follow along your journey if you're on, Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, if you want to share that now, or how people can reach out to you if they have questions about what you're doing as an entrepreneur, as, running your own Amazon agency. Would you share that with us now?
Course. I'm on every social media platform with my name, Alina Vlaic. It's on the screen, but I'm sure it will be in the text as well. And as an email, I will just leave my work email, which is alina@azrank.com. It's my main email, and I go through 35 times a day. So I'm sure I won't miss it. And I would love to get some feedback or questions, or however I can help. If I can, I would love to.
Wonderful. Thank you again for sharing that, Alina. And thank you for your time and sharing your story and your knowledge and your experiences. I so appreciate it. And I know the listeners will as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great talking about this kind of stuff. I loved it, and looking forward to our next one.
Excellent. We'll talk more soon.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be a part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.